Ron then took them to see the anchor stones in the village as well as the old stone house and the tombstones. But when they arrived at the house, they found it reduced to rubble and the tombstones gone. Where the tombstones had once rested was now a hole partially refilled. Ron was devastated. From that point on, he was very careful not to draw attention to anything of interest for fear of it being destroyed or removed.
Looks like that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4. This one's got 14. Undoubtedly, well, here's the Sentinel Cross that they're going by, of course. And it's difficult to tell which were the originals and which are the extra ones that have been added later. But here you have 5, a little one here, 3 more here, and here. And then this one matches with this one. There's more here. So we have 5 down here, 5 up here, and 4 over here. So the extras were undoubtedly added at a later time. And you can see there's also been some damage in terms of target practice.
Right.
Now this gives you a nice idea of the height of some of these stones, and it also gives you a nice idea of the location of the hole at the top of the rock. This rock also has the crosses carved in it. They're a little harder to see because of the ridges in the rock, and the natural ridges in the rock. But if you look carefully, there are a number of places. Here's a good example. Here's another example, rather. And here's the bottom of the bigger one. Bigger cross comes across here. So probably if you could examine it more carefully and changing lighting, you would see all of them. And undoubtedly, this stone probably was also standing up. And you'll notice that the distribution of the crosses seems to be lower in the rock, lower down to the bottom part of where it would have been upright.
When Ron and Dave arrived, Samran was ill, and they had to delay their departure to eastern Turkey until he felt better. During this time, Mine Unler arranged for them to meet with Dr. Ekrem Arkugal, Turkey's leading archaeologist, world-renowned for his excavations of the Hittite Empire in Turkey. Familiar with both Ron's research and the reports of the Turkish scientists from the fall of 1984, Dr. Arkugal made the following statement.
May I congratulate you for that great success, really.
Thank you, sir.
I believe it is an ancient remains of an old ship.
This, since the earthquake pushed it up, the wood, you see, is eroding out, and it must be covered quickly also, because we're losing much.
It must be preserved. It must be preserved. These are the remains, which are at any rate remains of a ship.
Yes.
On June 20th, 1987, after 10 years of intense research, the Turkish government announced to the world the discovery of Noah's Ark and the dedication of it and the surrounding area as a national park.
What Wyatt found measures almost identically to the text offered in the 6th chapter of Genesis in the Old Testament. It was also found in the area where the Bible says the ark finally came to rest.
What we actually have found is physical evidence that this is a boat. Whether or not it's Noah's Ark is up to the people that review the material. That's up to them to decide on that. My personal feeling is that it is Noah's Ark.
Wyatt admits his skeptics are severe, and he has a long road to travel before his theories can be totally tested. The rock, wood, and metal samples are currently being analyzed, with reports due on the specimens by mid-September. If it is the Ark, what has been proven?
To the people that believe in God, this will be a confirmation of their faith.
Wyatt firmly believes ultimately his find will be proven to be that of Noah's Ark. Even then, he says, there'll be some who still won't believe it. As far as the timing of this find, he has an explanation.
but I think everything is on a time schedule, and I believe that when the time is right, these things will be brought out.
Welcome to Wyatt Archaeological Museum here in Cornersville, Tennessee. I'm Richard Reeves, president of Wyatt Archaeological Research. I'd like to invite you to join me as we review the discoveries of Ron Wyatt and the ongoing investigations of Wyatt Archaeological Research. Here in the museum, we have artifacts from around the world relating to the discoveries of Noah's Ark, Sodom and Gomorrah, the Red Sea crossing site, and Mount Sinai in Arabia, as well as information on the Ark of the Covenant and how the pyramids were built. So what I'd like to do is invite you to join me as I share the things that I've learned and seen over the past 10 years as I've worked with Ron Wyatt. And the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. The reason I point that out, I'm sure they were terribly rough and turbulent seas. You're going to see some giant anchor stones. These are not anchors that would anchor a ship down, but rather to drag in the water, stabilize the ship, and keep the nose into the oncoming waves. These are called Drogue-style anchors, and we'll take a closer look at those in just a minute. And then in Genesis 8:4, it says, "And the ark rested in the 7th month, the 17th day of the month, upon the mountains of Ararat." Mountains, plural. And if you go back to the Hebrew text, it actually says the mountains of Urartu, which is that whole mountainous region over in eastern Turkey. This is a map of Urartu. It's the northern area of the Tigris and Euphrates River. Mount Ararat is in the central part of Urartu. The place that Ron found Noah's Ark is actually about 20 miles south of that. Now, on September 5th, 1960, Life magazine did an article, and it showed a boat-shaped object that had been aerially photographed with a caption, "Noah's Ark," and a question mark. Ron Wyatt saw this in Life magazine, and he wanted to check it out, but he had to do a little research and save a little money before he could do it. So later in 1977, Ron went back over to eastern Turkey and located what he had seen in the magazine. And as you can see the outline of a boat. And at that time, the matrix material or the surrounding material was all the way up to the gunnels, if you will, of the boat-shaped object. On November 25th, 1978, there was an earthquake in the area. 4.4 magnitude, and it was located, the center of the earthquake was located in Dogubayazit, which is about 10 miles from the boat site. So Ron was very concerned about what the earthquake may have done to the ark, and he made a trip back over to see, what had happened. When he got there, he couldn't believe his eyes. The earthquake had dropped the surrounding material, the matrix material, away from the boat and left it sitting there. He could see the rib timbers down the sides, the vertical and horizontal deck support timbers, and other boat shapes. So what had happened is God had excavated it more in a few minutes than people could have in years. These are rib timbers on the sides. You can measure between them. They're evenly spaced. So this is not a natural object. This is something that's man-made, and the Turkish scientists agree. Now these are horizontal deck support timbers. You can see 3 of them here in this picture. They run across and connect with a rib timber. So you have a horizontal deck support timber and a rib timber, a horizontal deck support timber and a rib timber, a horizontal deck support timber and a rib timber, and so on. This is not a natural object. Ron located giant anchor stones. We talked a little bit about that before, and these are Drogue-style anchors. They're found in the Mediterranean. The only difference in these and the ones found in the Mediterranean is the size. But we have to remember that it was only in the late 1800s that anyone ever built a boat again the size of Noah's Ark. Now, if you'll notice the hole in the top of the anchor stone, on one side it's smaller than the other. The idea is you tie a knot on a big rope and feed it through till it catches on the small side. Of course, the other side is bigger, but in the middle it gets even bigger. And the idea is when the rope is wet, it swells up in the middle and keeps it from wearing in too. And you can see in the background Mount Ararat back behind the anchor stone. And many of these have been found in a line leading right up to the boat-shaped structure, which we know now is Noah's Ark that Ron found. The fossilized deck timber that we have in the museum was presented to Ron by the Turkish government. As he was doing the subsurface radar, he located this piece of timber. The Turkish government actually dug it up and presented it to Ron for analysis. This is a picture of the inside of the deck timber, and if you'll notice, it has layers in it. And in some of the languages, gophering refers to layering. There's in the Oxford English Dictionary, it will tell you that gophering is sometimes lapping or layering. And, of course, you can see the layers in the fossilized wood there.